Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
This is the Honda Navi and me in a super sandy base of what used to be a massive river. This is the Navi and me trying to head up a mountain with my crazy friends. This is the Navi and me on a 3,000-kilometer trip across the states of India, drone shot in the middle of a desolated desert. Now that was the 2016 Navi in India. That Navi was the bike on which the pun Africa single was born ever before the CRF 250 rally existed. The CRF 250 rally was not even launched back then. I made that pun on that motorcycle, I carried that name on the motorcycle, and I traveled thousands of kilometers because I wanted to lay the idea that adventure can be done on any machine. Yes, even a 100cc small simple machine. And this was a time when YouTube in India was going a little frenzy about buying big bikes, big ADV bikes, and then finally just ending up riding it on the highways. Also, I have to mention that I was not sponsored by Honda in any way to take the Navi on a long trip or to even go off-roading with it. I did not even ask them, I didn't wait to get anything from them, I didn't even try to convince them. Now I say that because it seems like it has become a norm to always look for sponsorship angle in motorcycle YouTubing and then somehow convince your viewers later that you had some passion for that motorcycle. When I wanted to do it, I just took the Navi, I took it off-roads, I took it across states, and it was done with personal money and it was done for fun, not for creating content. That wasn't the focus. What I'm trying to say is if you're looking at a mini moto and you want to do something fun with it, just do it. They are very cheap motorcycles. Instead, if you think that, oh, I will do it if Honda sponsors me, I will try to convince them. If not, I will go back to my big bike to make content. Then do you really have passion for those mini motos, or are you just fishing for any opportunity? Personally, I did not fish for any opportunity. I did it because it was fun. I had a feeling that eventually the world would understand how fun these small bikes are and how capable these bikes are. And I guess we are on that path. Now, well, all that was a couple of years ago before we moved to United States. Alas, I had to leave my Navi in India when I flew here and moved my shit here, basically in one backpack on a couple of suitcases. This must answer the question that I have received multiple times. What happened to my bikes? What did I do with my Navi? What did I do with my R15? They are secure in India. I have to admit that I missed both the bikes, but now Honda seems to have dropped a surprise which may solve this problem. From the year 2022, the Honda Navi will be available in about 4 colors for the States. $1,800 only. And now we come to the meat of this video. As someone who's ridden that bike for years, for thousands of kilometers, I want to put forward my perspective. I know EICMA is going on, so many cool bikes are being launched, and this guy wants to talk about a 100cc puny bike. Does he not know that he can just make videos about these mass desirable bikes, the expensive ones, sitting here in the garage and can get so many views? I do know that, I just choose not to. If you're new here, welcome to my channel and care to subscribe if you ever want to figure out why my thought process on this is different. Okay, so speaking about the Honda Navi for United States, my perspective will be different for broadly 2 reasons. First is because in India we've usually missed out on the nice motorcycles models that are available in the States but we did not have over there. And in the event it became available, many had to and they still do import, and the import taxes can be anything around 110%. Which means if a nice sexy motorcycle was available in the States for $10,000, it probably could be $20,000 in India unless it get locally produced or brought in as a knockdown unit. So in my mind, it is sort of funny that a motorcycle model is making it to the States now after it has run its life cycle in India. And very similarly, now in the States, the price is going to be more than double. It will shock you, I'll let you know. Just stay tuned. Although I think the price won't pinch more because usually there's nothing else available in that price point in the market in that segment. But it's still a little funny that the imaginary tables have turned just a little bit. Now, second and most important reason my perspective will be different is because I've owned this motorcycle for about 3 years, rode this motorcycle for thousands of kilometers. I've Moto traveled on this motorcycle, while here it might be seen as a cute pit bike or a cute go around urban town bike, or an easy to learn beginners kind of bike, or a collectible item. So despite I love this bike, I might put a little bit of scrutiny on it, which might diverge from what you can understand of this bike by taking a small test ride. Because I have lived days and nights in different terrain with the Honda Navi. I've woken up mornings with this bike, just me and the bike in middle of nowheres. It's like the knowledge you gain about someone on the first date versus after living with them for some time is quite different. So you ready for this? Let's go. Let's take the basic specs out of the way. It looks like your old Grom, but underneath is a 109cc single cylinder. 109cc. Carburetor based fueling air cooled engine makes roughly 8 HP and close to 8 Newton meters of torque, a specs which you will not find on the US site. And is an automatic is the biggest difference from any other mini motors Honda has in the USA. Well, except Ruckus. 12-inch front wheel, 10-inch rear, 3.5-inch suspension there. Oh wait, that's the front. Inverted telescopic front 2.7-inch travel in the rear. Drum brakes and 0.9 gallon gas there. Alright, I did not expect to wrap this video. I don't know why I did that, but I feel maybe I'll just cut this instead of redoing it. Now that I read the specs like in my mind, I don't have a website or anything I'm reading from, something I remember. So when I'm speaking these specs out loud, in my mind I'm wondering how in the world did I take this bike with these specs to places? Because these specs clearly say no way. But that's the beauty of small motorcycles. They almost always overdo what their specs or what your perception when you look at it can tell you. So now that we have specs out of the way, you want to know how does it feel to ride a Honda Navi? And I'm here to tell you that it is super fun, especially if there was no Grom in the market, as in you're not spoiled by the fun of the Grom, then you will find this bike way more fun. It is decently lightweight, it is surprisingly agile, and the first time you sit on it, you will have this expectation that this is a slow bike, but you will be taken by surprise. I mean, sure, it is slow compared to a lot of things in the market, but when you ring that throttle, it will take you by surprise. It will actually zip peppier than you would expect it, especially looking at the spec sheet or looking at the bike. The exhaust note, crank it up and even at max speed will confuse you because it is very muffled and you're looking at a motorcycle body, but then it sounds nothing throaty. God, I need to stop rhyming everything and finish this video. Alright, so speaking of the exhaust note confusing you, as I already mentioned, it's an automatic. The engine isn't underneath the tank. It's a little bit to the rear, right underneath your ass. And if you notice the rear wheel, there is that scooter hub over there that drives the rear wheel. Size-wise, Honda Navi is actually very cute and very useful. You can easily dump it behind your truck, your car, and plethora of other vehicles because everything in US is like big. I reckon it'll even fit in my Subaru Crosstrek if I lay out the seats flat or with just a simple hitch. Now imagine you can just whip it out in your campground and go ride the trails around. Slowly, I don't mean with the brat factor or YOLO MX dirt bike life. Just taking you around the scenery in a very peaceful pace, which people already do with the Honda Ruckus here, but the motorcycle ergonomics of the Navi makes it more enjoyable. It's got a low seat height and combined with the light weight of the bike, it's very easy to handle for short riders like myself, but also surprisingly hella fun for tall people. And despite that it has only 0.9 gallons tank, it gives a high fuel mileage, high gas mileage. Now here's a point from experience. It will give you high gas mileage if you ride it in its comfort speed zone, which is under 50 kilometers per hour, like 30 miles per hour. We shall discuss what happens if you go crazy on this bike. And that statement probably made you inquisitive about the top speed of Honda Navi. Well, with me, 175 pounds, my motorcycle luggage, extra fuel, stuff in storage box like toolkit and all, maybe combined weight of 40 pounds odd. You'll be surprised to hear that it was almost able to do 80 kilometers per hour on really long stretches with time.
आ रहे 80 पे आ रहे ये मैक्स स्पीड पे आ रहा है ये रहा मेरा
which is like 50 miles per hour top speed on a good day on a very plain and flat highway. But your sane speed on the Honda Navi should really be around 35 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. Now having said that, I have to vouch for Honda's quality. Nothing broke despite I took this bike for days, weeks and months together. An air-cooled engine, I kept it pinned at 75 kilometers per hour for hours when I had to like cross nowheres of like boring nowheres in the deserts. Nothing happened to it. The bike never complained except when I ran out of gas. So if you're in the States and if you ever find yourself asking, should I drop 1800 on the Honda Navi or should I buy a Chinese bike for $1,000? Remember that the Honda Navi has Honda's reliability built in, at least in the engine. I think it will be interesting for people in the States to know the difference between Indian version and the US version. If you guys are interested to know, let me know in comments. I will make another video and I'll update the description with that video when it's done. Now speaking of that build quality, as much as I can vouch for the engine, I cannot vouch the same for the other body parts like the panels and the switchgear. They seem to be a little different for USA. The body panels seem the same, but the switchgear seems a little different for USA. The Indian switchgears were decent quality at the best. I could also say that the headlight housing too was not really their best work. The brakes are not so great as well. Well, they are drum brakes, and when you get this bike going to those speeds, 50 miles per hour, they do take a little bit of time to stop. I remember when I took this bike apart to prep it up for long distance travel, all those fittings at the headsets, the screws, nuts and bolts, and the way they fit in, they left a lot desired. They didn't feel really premium. I mean, I could be nitpicking at this point because for the price this bike is built and sold, even in USA, there's nothing really close in that price point. But if you're a grease monkey and you like to work on your bikes, some of those bolts and the way they thread in will disappoint you a bit. I want to also mention that the first trip I took this bike off-roading, I came back with leaking forks. But again, I have to say that Honda has made this bike for urban mini moto. I'm probably asking too much of the bike. I probably put this bike through too much. But here's the problem. When that front fork leaked and I wanted to repair, a small part which is a dust seal cover was not available. As in, Honda did not make that part available. It was not part of the catalog. And I remember I was like furious because I had to change the whole fork just because that dust seal is not made as a separate part. Props to Honda that they took care of it free under warranty, but still it gets a little annoying that small part causes you to change the whole fork. And in my mind I knew that I would take this bike on more crazy adventures and come back with a leaking fork seal every time. How many times are we going to change this? In Honda India's mind though, they could not comprehend what I was going to do with the bike because the dealers were like, trust me sir, it won't leak again. Thinking that I use the bike for daily commute like 30 or 50 kilometers in the city. And in my mind I'm like, trust me, it will leak. You don't know what I'm going to do with the bike. On that note, let's talk about riding the Honda Navi in United States. Now United States has predominant culture with big bikes, and some of it is a marketing ploy. Some of it, not all of it. I say that because there is a good logical reason of having big bikes here. Clearly I still go against it. You see, as part of my world trip, I've been able to ride most of India and Asia on small bikes, 125cc scooters, 150cc entry level sport bikes, the 110cc Honda Navi. And even when I moved to USA, I wanted to go something small, like perhaps the Grom. But I didn't because of some experience. Part of it I will discuss here, part of it in a longer video later. Instead, I bought a 250cc to continue exploring North America, which is still considered a small bike, the lowest level here. And when you go small like this or even smaller than that, there is a big safety difference compared to the big bikes. I am personally never in a hurry on a trip. I do not need to reach the destinations fast, and my world trip is not a straight line across countries or continents. No. Yet the biggest difference in Asia and most of the countries over there is the max speed on the highways is about 80 kilometers per hour, some places 100, which is in US terms 50 to 60 miles per hour. And because usually over there everybody has smaller bikes or cars, you're rarely gonna find people who zip past you at 130 kilometers per hour or more, which is like 80 miles per hour. You will rarely have issues with not going fast enough. Get this, in Asia you could be riding 40 kilometers per hour on the highway and be on one lane on the highway on the side, and nobody's gonna bother you, nobody's gonna pile up behind you, honk at you. No, they will not bother you, they will just go around you. In USA though, things are different. The freeway speeds are 60 to 70 miles per hour, and almost everyone is on a bigger truck or a car which can comfortably do those speeds, and nobody is actually doing 60 or 70. They're probably gunning 80s on the freeways. We all know what happens on the highways. Yes, even in United States, people drive over the speed limit unless they see a cop, and these days Google Maps literally tells you, oh, there is a speed trap over there. But the difference is in Asia, everybody is moving like at 80 kilometers per hour, and once in a while somebody is zipping past at 130. Here, everybody is moving at 130. So consider this, in the States on a 250, this does a top speed of 120 kilometers per hour. This is a dual sport bike. It's not a sport bike. A sport bike would do a little higher, but 120 kilometers per hour on a traveling on freeways with this bike is already below everybody's pace. So the times that I get on the freeway, I'm already doing peak speed of this machine. And I kind of pray that a truck does not zip past me, and that's on a 250. Now replace that with a Grom whose top speed is about 110 kilometers per hour. You're taking chances. And when you further trickle down and replace with a Navi on a freeway whose top speed is 80 kilometers per hour, it is very dangerous. Your machine is already performing at the max level, then you have to consider other dynamics like the braking distance that you need. As I mentioned, the brakes aren't really great, and then pray that you don't have any crosswinds. So practically, as much as I love small machines, I would not recommend you to take the Navi on the freeways here. You're probably asking for bad chances with your luck. And now speaking about urban experience on the Honda Navi, I've already mentioned that it's a very fun machine, although it looks like a Grom, but you may not be able to go full hooligan with it like you can on the Grom. Let me explain. It's an automatic with 8.9 Newton meters of torque, but it's an automatic, no clutch, so no clutch wheelies. But can you do a wheelie on the Honda Navi? Yes, you can. You can manage to do a wheelie by weight shifting. But that said, remember the forks, just be careful landing it. It's also going to be a little tricky to intentionally lock the rear and slide the rear. That's because Honda uses a combined braking system on the Honda Navi. And speaking of brakes, one of the changes that I've noticed from the Indian version to the US version is that the Indian version had a brake lever, while the US version gets a brake foot pedal. More like a motorcycle, although you might get confused that there is still a small lever here, that is the parking lever. Like remember, the bike is automatic, it has no gears, so when you park it uphill, it could just keep rolling, so parking brake. Now talking to the crazies like me out there, if you're going to take Honda Navi off-roading, remember that the front fender and the rear fender both will get caked up with mud easily. In fact, for my travel, I had to do some modification. I had to do custom brackets. I raised the front fender. You could also cut off the rear fender a little bit. And the center stand, which is like a rare accessory to get on motorcycles these days. You're glad that it is there standard on the Honda Navi, but you might actually want to remove it. Because in the off-road, that thing is so low that it can actually catch onto branches or rocks and it'll pivot the whole motorcycle. You could end up in crash. True story from experience. Have I posted that video? Honestly, it's pretty funny to crash on that small motorcycle, and especially when you realize that the stand is the culprit, you have like a poker face. So for USA, as long as you don't take the bike on freeways and stick to local roads, the slower roads or the back roads, it's a very fun bike. You can even throw a milk crate on the back as an accessory and go do grocery shopping, and then later use it for stupid jumping on the backyard off-roads. And it's also a pretty fun bike to get the uninitiated, kids or adults, into motorcycling. And still, if you're in the States but you're a nut job like me and you're looking at Honda Navi and considering maybe you should do a long distance travel including off-roading on this machine, then please consider things that I've told you. I've been there, done that. Proceed with caution, have fun. Anyway, to conclude, the Honda Navi is a very entertaining, zest-filled machine, and I'm personally very happy to see this launch in the United States. It could be start of another cult just like the Grom has. Don't forget to let me know in comments if you want to know the difference between Indian and USA Navi and how it changes the experience of biking, and also any other questions on the Navi in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next vlog. Adios.